Good morning, everybody. I'm Patrick Duffy, and I'm very excited to be back in the beautiful Nasdaq studios overlooking Times Square in New York City. Today is part 8 of our series Future Thinker that runs in tandem with Design Pavilion, an annual event celebrating design and architecture in the heart of New York City's Times Square during the NYC by Design Festival. Our series explores how agents of change, disruptors, and leaders in the design industry will shape tomorrow, and what they are doing today to make a positive impact on people and planet. My next guest is a senior career diplomat with rich experience in multilateral affairs, having served in different duty stations across the world. A passionate advocate of sustainability, regularly engaging with key stakeholders, speaking to civil society groups, students, and many others about environment, climate change, and sustainable development. He's skilled in international relations, environmental awareness and sustainable development, policy analysis and political science, and much, much more. It's my pleasure to welcome Director of Intergovernmental Affairs at the United Nations Environment and introduce to you Mr. Jamil Ahmad. Jamil, welcome to the Nasdaq. How are you?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm a huge fan and a big sustainability advocate myself, so thank you for coming to join us. So let's just dive right into this. We've seen alarming reports recently from the UNEP, which you're the head of, about environmental problems, biodiversity loss, and climate change. Can you give us some insight about what the findings are from these reports?
Yes, United Nations Environment Program, or UN Environment as we call it, is the lead UN agency keeping the world environment under review. And one of the mandates that this organization has is to keep the world environment under review regularly through the production of credible, scientific-based, independent assessments and reports. Mm-hmm. So Global Environmental Outlook is one of the flagship reports that the United Nations Environment Program produces every 4 or 5 years. It's not actually one report, it's a series of reports which looks into various aspects of the state of the environment. Also then look at policy responses that governments have evolved and developed over the years to deal with these issues, and then presents possible pathways to address some of the sustainability issues. The recent report to which you have alluded is GEO6, Global Environmental Outlook 6, which was released just recently, and it has looked at water issues, at air, land and soil, coastal issues and marine and oceans, also on other cross-cutting issues like chemicals and waste management, and it has found these are the drivers for the changes in environmental degradation. Also, they have looked at it and how governments have responded to it. The main message that comes out of the GEO6 is that there is an alarm. Alarm, yes, and that we are not doing well. We have not managed the resources well. We have not taken care of the biodiversity, which is we are losing it at a fast pace. Another report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Ecosystem and Biodiversity was released just this month, which is also alarming, that the rate of biodiversity loss is as dangerous as climate change, if not more. So these reports, and then we also issue another scientific report which is called the Gap Assessment Report, which looks at the action on the climate change front and how countries are responding to take actions to reduce their emissions, and what gap remains still between the action and the targets set by Paris Agreement. So these are alarming reports, yes, and but the good news is that it says that while time is short, the window is still open, so we can still work.
That's positive.
Yes.
That's positive. We like positivity. So 4 years from the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, what's the state of play? What's happening? And how are people responding to these reports?
Yes, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, was exactly designed and developed in response to the global challenges that we just talked about, whether that is climate change, whether that is environmental degradation, and most of all poverty. Poverty eradication is one of the first goal in SDGs, because it's in that context that we face the other challenges in sustainability, whether that is water issues, whether that is jobs, whether that is education, with provision of health facilities. So all these issues have been now developed into this integrated agenda called the 2030 Agenda, which was, I must say, designed and developed in a very new way, in a very new fashion. Unlike other UN outcomes, this was the result of a very open, inclusive process in which the stakeholders, in which private sector, in which academia, in which the UN family, they were all involved to contribute directly to the designing and the development of this agenda. So in one way I can say, I would not be wrong in saying that the 2030 Agenda is the modern, new face of multilateralism, the inclusive multilateralism, if I may call it, in which this agenda has been developed. So 4 years on, a lot of action has taken place at local level, at country level, at regional level, at global level also. Countries have adopted these SDGs into their own development plans and development strategies, and they have aligned their own priorities with the SDGs. Not all of them have done the same. Every country, every region have their own priorities, and they come to the UN every year to share with others countries and to have a peer review and to learn lessons from others as to how to do better in the coming years. So this year the world leaders will review it and take stock of how they have done so far and what can be done better.
It'll be really interesting to see the impact of that, and I've definitely seen a lot of the SDG across many industries, SDGs being adopted, which is fantastic. Question about challenges. So what are some of the challenges in addressing these issues, and what is the United Nations doing to help that?
Well, this is a very ambitious agenda. This is universal, and this has brought, for the first time, a developmental agenda has brought all aspects of development into one framework, environmental, social, and economic. So the very nature of this agenda makes it more challenging. So there are challenges, yes. One of the key challenge perhaps is the capacity of the developing countries, the poor countries, the least developed countries to implement it because of lack of capacity in terms of institutions, because of lack of capacity in terms of policy regimes, and also a key factor is the provision of financing, because that money makes the money go.
Money makes it go. So since we're sitting right here in the middle of a financial market, can you give us some insight about how can the Sustainable Development Goals and how can this agenda be connected to financing, and what can the finance world do to be a part of this?
Well, as I said, SDGs have a financial investment gap, and some say that this investment gap is close to the tune of $7 trillion annually. For climate change, this investment gap is even higher. So the big question is how to meet this gap. One of the experts that I met recently, he thought perhaps that we should not look at gaps, but we should look at opportunities for financing for sustainable development, which is a positive spin to what we are discussing. But in any case, public financing or public resources will represent the primary means for implementation of the SDGs, but we know that public funding, public financings are not sufficient. So we have to mobilize additional resources, we have to mobilize additional domestic resources, international, both from public and, most importantly, from private sector. One element of public financing was ODA, the official development assistance which developed countries provide to the developing countries, but that has sort of plateaued over the years, and it has not registered any remarkable increase in real terms recently. So that is also not going to help in meeting the targets. So what else can we do? Perhaps the best way, as experts say, financial experts say that the best way is to leverage the whatever limited public finances that are there to attract private sector. And in that, the role of financial markets and financial mechanisms will be crucial.
Play a big role, yes. Switching gears a little bit, World Environment Day is on June 5th. What is the importance of that this year, or how important is it to participate in it this year?
Well, as we see, environment is now a subject every day. Some decades ago, there was hardly a talk in which environment was discussed. Now there's hardly a discussion without environment. So Environment Day is celebrated or commemorated every year on the 5th of June to raise awareness among policymakers, among ordinary citizens like me and you, among the experts and among all others to the fact that we have to do more to keep the environment safe from further degradation. This year, the theme for the World Environment Day is Pollution-Free Planet. And in that context, this will be celebrated the world over. In New York also, we have celebrations both at the UN and outside. And this will be in line with the work that we do in our program of work on these subjects.
Well, I hate to wrap this up. We're running out of time, but I'm so excited that you came to join us. And I would like to tell our viewers at home that we were just told here on live TV that there is an alarm bell happening and that we need to take care of our planet now. So I do encourage you to get in touch with Jamil Ahmad at the UN Environment. Can you tell everybody how to get in touch with you and how to get involved in your organization?
Yes, we are headquartered in Nairobi, and our office here in New York is located in the UN headquarters in the 2 UN Plaza. Our website will give you the information that we are located in.
Okay. And the website is?
The website is www.unep.org and www.unenvironment.org.
Okay, so just to refresh again, the alarm bells are going off. We need to take care of our planet. This is the man that's going to help us get there. June 5th is World Environment Day. And thank you so much for coming to join us here in Nasdaq Studios for Future Thinker. Let's make a positive people, planet, future.